Hello, people. Welcome to this Sunday. And I am with James Proctor. James Proctor and I do a wrestling show together, but James also knows the mob. And we're probably going to start a show on Sunday where we discuss what's going on in the week on MobTube. We're not going to attack any channels. This show is personal opinions, and we're going to talk about things that for the week have been controversial. And so with that, how you doing, James?
Hey, doing really good. How are you?
Good. And you're getting ready for your Cowboys tonight?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a little
I got ready
nervous.
for I got ready for my Giants yesterday, and you see, I got a Yankee. Now I'm ready for baseball season.
Yeah,
Okay, football season's over for me. But okay, well, I wanted to ask you some questions.
Sure.
So, what do you think about this week? This has been a very interesting week in the mob genre, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely a lot of stories. I know, obviously, the Gene Borello situation, and then later this week with Mikey Scars rebutting some of the videos that Sammy's done.
And we have more documents showing where Mikey said called out Mikey Scars called out Sammy Guevara, and we have evidence that Sammy lied.
Yep.
And Mikey's telling the truth once again.
Yep.
Why do you think it is that Sammy Guevara has this fear? He seems to be backing away from dealing with Mikey Scars. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
Well, because Mikey Scars knows Sammy, and he knew John. He was there.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not backing Mikey Scars. Mikey Scars sent a lot of people to prison because he didn't have the guts to take what was coming to him. And some of the guys he sent to prison did. Mm-hmm. But that said, I think that Mikey Scars, being that he's not being on either side, he's staying the stories as he's saying it. Yeah. Like he's talking about when John Gotti's walking out of the Raven Night and he's describing it. You put the picture in your head. Mm-hmm. I think that he makes you think about what it was like back then.
Right.
What do you think about that? Because I know you're a member of his Patreon page, aren't you?
Yeah. No, there's good content there. RJ does a great job, obviously, and it does really put you in the situation, and so you're able to get a lot of knowledge and hearing it from someone that was there firsthand. It's really interesting to me as a historian.
And you know, when you try to do the shows with Sammy Guevara, he has so much hate for the Gottis that I think that he's not able to present it the way it's supposed to be presented because of his hate. And it's hard to present. It's a one-sided story with Sammy. He's not telling both sides of the story. It's Sammy's side. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, most definitely. And that's one of the differences, that I see with Mikey Scars. Obviously the channel's no excuses, and I see that he's willing to admit his mistakes, and also he'll show both sides of a story, which is good. I mean, obviously Mikey's got an agenda, everyone does, but I see it more factual than what we're getting from Sammy, and it's also backed up by what we can find when we research history, look at court testimonials, and all that.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Mikey Scars' agenda is to go after Sammy, or is Mikey Scars countering Sammy's first attack?
Yeah, I think this is more of countering Sammy's first attack. I know that if you listen to Mikey, he said he will reveal at one time what his agenda is. He does have an agenda, but in this case, it was just countering what Sammy had said.
And this is what happens. You have two guys right now who both they were both informants.
Yep.
And you got one guy, Sammy, trying to make himself look like a hero. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example. He went on another podcaster show, and this podcaster show said that Sammy's people were saying to call him the king of MobTube, or I'm sorry, the boss of
the Don. Yeah,
the Don of MobTube.
Yeah.
At that point, that's when you say, I'm not going to say that. But of course, this podcaster caved and said it, which is no surprise.
Yeah.
But you know, that's just an interesting story. That's who Sammy and Sammy's people are.
Yeah.
Now you see when you go on to shows with and you see Mikey Scars doing his live shows, and
Yeah.
I'm talking about in his on his Patreon page.
Right.
When he does his live shows, he lets anybody on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's very engaging. The interaction is totally different than what you'll see from what Sammy does in his lives, or even you can just look at the comments on videos. Sammy rarely will respond to any comments in a YouTube video, and Mikey pretty much will respond to every one of them, even if he doesn't agree. And they allow people that disagree on their show, which is totally different than Sammy, which it seems the only people that can get on are the ones that will donate to his to
Does the questions that
Cash
he
App or
answered,
whatever.
the highest bidder gets on with the question.
Yeah, and he doesn't
And
even answer them sometimes, and they give the money.
yep, and you know, some people, you know, God bless him if that's, you know, let him make as much money as he wants. But Sammy, you got to tell facts. And right now, Mikey Scars is calling you on. We're gonna put something up here on you right now, Sammy. That once again shows that you were telling more tales. You were telling the mob world according to Sammy Gravano.
Right.
Would you say that is that accurate? Because you're the one that gave me this stuff right here, my man.
Yeah, yeah, and this is regarding the conspiracy to kill Fred Weiss, and so there's a lot of discrepancies from what Sammy mentioned in a video back in October of 2021 and what we see in the actual court testimonial from Mikey Scars.
And so let's explain this out. Okay, so Sammy came out and basically said that he was the one that was in charge of setting up the whole hit on Fred Weiss. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what Sammy said.
Okay, and we're going to show that stuff. And then it's been countered, and basically Mikey Scars is calling him a liar.
Right.
Okay, well, let's put this up and show you why Mikey Scars is calling him a liar. Okay, this is called Conspiracy to Kill Freddie Weiss. And we're going to talk about Fred Weiss because this doesn't go how it's planned, does it, James?
No, it doesn't.
And we'll expect eventually Freddie Weiss was killed by the what is that clan?
Devacante, yeah, from the
Delacante clan,
yeah,
out of New
right.
Jersey.
Mhm.
They were compared to the Sopranos. They were
Right.
They were the Clumbos of New Jersey. They were considered like the gang that couldn't shoot straight. Would you say that's
Right.
pretty accurate about them?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely.
And so we're going to go with that. And Fred Weiss was gunned down eventually in front of his house in 1989 by members of the dysfunctional family.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
those that the DeCavalcanti family or also bragged to be part. The Sopranos is based on them.
Right.
I don't know if you knew that. And
yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the testimony of Mikey Scars. This is actual testimony. Then this is court testimony.
Right.
Okay. So question: now, at the time that you were working as a Teamsters foreman at the Gimbal site that we saw in the photo, August of 1989, you were asked to participate in another murder of a Gambino for the Gambino family. And he says, yes. And then he says, and who asked you for your help? And Mikey Scars says, John Gotti Sr. And then he goes, okay, who came directly with John Gotti Sr.'s wishes? Answer, a fella named Joe Watts. Right?
Right.
Not Sammy Gravano.
No.
Joe Watts.
Right.
Okay. And remind us who Joe Watts is. He was a close associate, a member of the inner circle, and a prolific murderer. And I will get into Joe Watts a little bit more. And this prolific murder, Joe Watts, what did he ask from you? I was the answer. I was in a club with Fat Downs Club in Staten Island with Jackie and the rest of our crew. Jackie being who?
Jackie D'Amico, who was the captain at the time. Mikey at this point was an associate.
And at that point, Mikey was taking orders from Jackie D'Amico, right?
Right.
Okay. Uh, Joe Watts came in and asked for Jackie and Dom and myself to step outside. He had to tell us, he had something to tell us, and then proceeded to tell us that coming from the boss, John Gotti, we had a piece of work to do. Okay.
Right.
So basically, what he's saying that Joe Watts came in and asked for Jackie D'Amico and Dom, and basically said to them that they wanted to take out Freddie Weiss.
Right.
Would you say that's is correct?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
And then Sammy did a video and gave a different version, didn't he?
Yes, exactly.
And if you read, I checked his 302s. His 302s doesn't have this story either. So
Okay.
this is Sammy's version. Sammy claims that Jackie did not know about the hit until Mikey Scars told him, which is correct. Sammy is saying that Mikey defied a direct order from John not to tell his captain, Jackie. See, that's where he's, so basically in his video, Sammy said that Mikey wasn't even supposed to tell Jackie.
Right.
So what we're supposed to believe from Sammy is that an associate at that time, a soldier, I'm sorry, more of a soldier.
Yeah.
Mikey Scars was not supposed to tell his boss.
Right.
The captain.
Right.
That makes no sense.
No.
Why would John Gotti go to a soldier and tell him not to tell his boss, the captain?
Right. Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and no one calls him out. And we got more here. And it says, based upon the testimony, Jackie was the first in Fat Dom's club in Staten Island when Joe Watts told Jackie and Mikey Scars together that they were on the Fred Weiss hit. The problem is that it makes Mikey Scars appear to disobey orders from the boss and consigliere Sammy. And at this time, Sammy was not the underboss or the consigliere, was he?
Yeah, he was the consigliere, but he wasn't the underboss.
But he was okay. So yeah, he wasn't the underboss. So
right.
But once again, every murder that happened, Sammy was involved in it, and from shooting at Sparks Steakhouse,
right,
when they took out Castellano.
Yep.
Sammy said he put that together, and now he's putting this together.
Yeah, and that's what the problem was, is that he's trying to state that, one, that he's the one that had talked to John Gotti and was basically organizing everything. It wasn't him. It was Joe Watts. And then the second thing is that Sammy's saying, well, Jackie didn't know anything about this until Mikey told him. And that's not true, because when Joe Watts met with them, he met with both Jackie and Mikey together.
And they almost killed Weiss, but
yeah,
at the last minute, it didn't happen. And I'm not going to get into why it didn't happen,
right?
Because we really don't know why it happened. But what we do know that happened is that there was an order to kill Freddie Weiss, right? And
there was.
And Sammy said that it eventually happened when?
Well, Sammy said it was years later. But
it wasn't, wasn't it? It was
no,
a couple
it was
days
like
later.
Yeah, a couple of days later. And again, there was saying from the New York Post that mentioned that when they were when Joe Watts was facing trial. Also, we know that that he was supposed to, talking about Weiss was supposed to go to a construction site to meet, and they actually had, the Gambinos had everything set up. Watts was actually going to pull the trigger, but it just didn't happen. It was it was hot, or different stories. I'm not sure why it didn't happen. But then it went to the New Jersey family, and New Jersey family ended up taking him out like a day or two later.
And that's the amazing thing, because okay, I'm sorry. Let me put us up. Okay, so that's the amazing thing about this hit. You don't realize Sammy can come on and tell you whatever he was, because when Sammy's been out here, there's never been anybody to counter his stories.
Right.
And his stories have been countered a couple times now, and Mikey Scars has come out with strong evidence that Sammy's lying. Would you say that on these other stories?
Yeah, and that's what makes it more credible is that you could go back and verify what what Mikey is saying, and that's what's important for any of us looking at history is we need to do our own research, look and see what's true and what's not, and understand that everyone possibly has an agenda. So you just can't take it for face value what someone's saying.
And eventually, Mikey Scars was going to testify against Joe Watts, but Joe Watts wound up taking a plea and going to prison. But it just goes to show you, and I'm going to show you because you got to remember, Mikey Scars was going to testify, and Mikey Scars admits this. He was going to testify against Joe Watts, even after saying this. And I got to make this clear because people say, "Oh, we're pro Mikey Scars." No, there's a lot of dirtiness that comes with these. Would you say this is true, James? There's a lot of dirtiness that comes with these guys that turn evidence.
Yeah, I mean, all of them were, Mikey's been involved in 3 murders himself. I mean, he's not an angel, and pretty much anyone in that life gets their hands dirty. So, you have to call it out the way it is.
And he was also willing to testify against Joe Watts after saying this. He said that Joe Watts was the classiest guy that he ever met, the biggest sport, one of the sharpest guys that he ever met in life. And he even said that he taught John Gotti how to dress. I don't know if that's true. That's coming from Mikey Scars. Yeah. But when it came down to prowess as a gangster, Mikey Scars continued to say that there was no one better and no one more feared than Watts. I didn't realize this. Did you?
Well, and not really, but what's interesting is that Joe Watts wasn't made because he's not of the lineage, but this shows you that typically there's 3 ways of being powerful in a family. It's either being a murderer, being an earner, or proximity to the boss, and that's where Joe Watts and even Jackie Knows were able to be successful because they had that close proximity to the boss. And so John Gotti liked both of them and utilized both of them.
And when you realize, when what I'm getting here is when you hear the names of the soldiers around Gotti and the people around Gotti, he had a hell of some really good people around him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and you see that, and they had different skill sets. It wasn't all murderers, wasn't all, one type of gangster. So that's something that,
it's gangsters trying to be gangsters. And see, this is another thing. When Gravano says that he was going to kill Gotti, does he? This is where you got to call out Gravano because Gravano thinks that he can get these guys, these loyal friends, some of them from being children running around the tough neighborhoods with John Gotti to kill John Gotti.
Yeah.
With John Gotti and Sammy Gravano was an outsider to that group, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And so, the Gottis were, they were in Queens area and Sammy was in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst. And so, they didn't grow up together. They didn't really know each other until later on. They ran across each other when Paul was there, but, they really didn't get close until planning the group planning the Castellano hit.
And you really understand what's moving here in the 80s. I mean, the 80s was probably the greatest and most violent decade of the mob. Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that.
I mean, you had all these guys out there. I mean, big names out there, but then they all started going down, all getting arrested. And as the cream of the crop went down, so did the mob. Would you pretty much say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, definitely. It just didn't, and also there's more opportunities for Italian Americans. They had opportunities to go to college, do other things. They didn't have to just become, a gangster.
And also, Mikey Scars said something else that, there's been people saying that it was hard to get to Gotti, where if they really wanted to kill him, they could have killed him, and that's the fact. Because
Yeah.
if you listen to Mikey Scars, he said that the first one out the door at the Raven Night was who?
Yeah, it was John Gotti. He was first one out. Yeah.
He didn't go out behind his soldiers.
No.
You know,
No,
and he talks about John Gotti's personality and how he would get mad at Jackie DeNose. He would get mad, and he'd always be getting mad at the guy, but he always forgave the guy. But he always would be getting mad at him. That was just John Gotti's personality.
Yeah,
and that's also part of the tapes. His personality. Yeah. When he gets going, he gets going.
Yeah, and that was one of the people that he was. You know, when John was talking about, there were captains that were basically broke. You know, Jackie Knows is one of the ones that he's referring to, that John Gotti is referring to, because him and his crew weren't making much.
And that would you say that's what really got John on Jackie at times, because his crew wasn't performing like it should?
Yeah, exactly. And they were mostly the older guys. There were a lot, it was a very old crew that went all the way back, the Lucky Luciano days, and actually before that, even to the Black Hand. And so, yeah, there was just they just were older. They didn't have they weren't involved in some of the more sophisticated rackets. They were more just, gambling, some loan sharking at the time.
Well, that's, and that's that pretty much explains a lot. So that's why you would say that these old timers really respected Watts. Even though he was younger at the time.
Oh, talking about Jackie Knows. Yeah, he was younger, and they definitely. I think his crew respected him. I know that some of the other capos didn't. I mean, the truth about Jackie Knows at the time was that he wasn't known as a tough guy. He wasn't a murderer. He was not a big earner. And so people like Sammy question what's the value of Jackie Knows. But again, he had the proximity to the boss. He was a driver, John
and he didn't betray his friends like Sammy. Would you say that's right?
Exactly. He didn't betray his friends. He was known to defend his friends. He was a very outgoing type person, a good cook. He enjoyed dancing. He was someone that John enjoyed hanging out with, and he could relate to. Also, the guy liked to gamble, and maybe gambled a little too much, but that was Jackie Knows.
Okay, well, and we covered that as much as we can. We're going to talk about another guy, and I don't even like to talk to him we just talked about a shitload of real gangsters.
Yeah.
But now we're going to talk about Gene Barillo.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of bringing our boundaries down here.
Yeah.
So this whole week has been very interesting with Gene Barillo, hasn't it also?
Yeah, it really has. You broke the big story about him, looking like he's going to go back to court, most likely get put back into prison. And then the next day, wasn't it that Jerry Capisi came out with an article as well?
And then Gene came out and spoke to a friendly podcaster of his, and basically stated that everybody's lying but him.
Yeah.
Everybody's wrong but him. And the show that he was on described it as Gene's girlfriend problems. Does it sound like girlfriend problems, or does it sound more serious than that?
Well, yeah, it's a lot more serious. Just, people can listen back to the video that you published. If they don't want to do that, they could look at Jerry Capisi's article. There's just a lot more than girlfriend problems.
You're talking about a guy that terrorized his girlfriend.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy that got an order of protection against him. And you're talking about a guy that did other things. Somebody walked into a bar. This is and he blamed it on FBI agents.
Yeah.
He blamed it on a certain woman, FBI agent, and said that she has something out for him. And I would like to say to Gene, seriously?
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense because, you look at the judge. The judge has really tried to give him chance after chance, and he just keeps on screwing up. I mean, really, he's got him. He's got to look at himself and not others, for the behavior. That's him doing this. He threatened people. He did these actions that's most likely going to get him back into prison.
Yes, and now the judge is in a position where if he says no, there's going to be an angry prosecution. There's going to be angry FBI agent. The Justice Department in general is going to be angry because, this is the second time now within the last 6 months that they've recommended that Gene do some time. And right. Gene, you have a personal beef with me, but I presented documents and evidence, Gene. This is not a personal vendetta I have against you. I don't wish no man in prison. But now you're creating a personal vendetta. He's lying and said that I contacted his probation officer, which is a lie, Gene. Prove it. It's a lie. Just because you say it doesn't make it true. And we went through a bunch of things like this. And James, I know you don't like to get in these battles, but I don't consider this as a battle. If you want to play gangster, you're going to be treated like a gangster. Would you say that's pretty much it?
Yeah, most definitely. And then when you look at what he's being charged with, it definitely wasn't from a phone call that you didn't make a phone call. Number one, that's not what it is. It's things like the falsifying documentation of employment, just various things like that you just can't get out of. How
about the fact that he got arrested 3 times by a police department?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's not someone else doing that. Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing. Gene, these are not girlfriend problems. Okay. And I'm not going to be like other podcasters and let you off the hook. This is not about girlfriend problems. This is serious legal problems that have nothing to do with Lee Cole. I'm just reporting it, Gene. And I said the same stuff, and the following day, everything I said, Jerry Capisci came out and said. Yeah. Right, James? I mean,
yeah, exactly. If he has to be, he needs to feel lucky that this wasn't state probation, because he would have already been locked up. They wouldn't have even.
They would have pulled him right off the street.
Yeah. So, he's just got himself to blame.
And Gene, until Gene Barillo realizes this is him that did this to himself, you got these other shows attacking me, pulling up warrants from 22 years ago that aren't even worth the time. They know nothing about them. They know nothing about my discussions with the district attorney. Many times we've discussed these things, and they have no idea. So it's like a character assassination. Let's assassinate the character of the person putting up the story. Have you seen that, would you say, lately?
Yeah. Kill the messenger is what it is,
Yeah. And the messenger is not going to get killed. The messenger is right here. And and Jerry Capisci is a lot bigger than me or I will ever be. He comes out. Jerry Capisci gets FBI reports. He gets court reports. They bring it to him. Jerry Capisci is a big guy. They bring it to him. And exactly,
but it confirms everything that you said, though, the day before.
And I didn't even talk about Gene being at the football game.
Right.
It's like, come on, really, dude? You called the court system, and you told them that you couldn't make it because you have strep throat, and then you're at the Tampa Bay game, and you go there with a Tampa Bay hat and claim to be a Dallas fan?
Well, that's one good thing about him. He's a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yeah, but as a football fan, would you put on somebody else's cap and pretend you're a fan of another team?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
That's like, I despise the Boston Red Sox, but I would never put a boy. I've been 3 times. I've been at Fenway Park.
Yeah,
3 times, and never did I wear a Boston. I wore a Yankee cap twice.
I bet you got jeered too, though.
it was much harsher back then in the
Yeah.
80s. In the 80s and early 90s. I went 3 different
Yeah.
times. It
Yeah.
was much different. Yeah, yes, I got
Well, you
jeered.
had guts to do that because,
Yes, but
you
now there's
know,
a lot more Yankee fans when the Red Sox play,
yeah.
so it's not as
Yeah.
heated as it used to be.
Right.
Because I
Right.
remember the first time that I went, it was 1977. No, 78. The year the Yankees were behind, they were
Yep.
trailing by 14 games.
Remember
And they
that.
came back and won the division.
Yep.
And that summer I went to a game.
Wow.
And it was just like, wow, I was booed, cheered, but they didn't throw nothing at me or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I'll be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that whole hat thing, it says a lot about an individual. That's
Yeah.
something that someone that turns evidence would do.
Yeah.
Betray your team for another team because you're
Yeah.
afraid to, you said that you're afraid you're going to have a fight in that. But
Yeah.
then when Cowboys are winning and you knew it,
Yeah.
you made sure you screamed to all those fans to tell them that you're
Yeah.
a Cowboy fan. That's
Right.
what he did. You can't make these things up.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that I want to discuss real quick. There's Howie Santos. There was some stuff that came out on Howie Santos.
Mm-hmm.
And Howie, I know you're going to watch this, so I'm just going to say this to you. You've been on a certain show when they present false evidence about me all the time. One, they said that I was a kidnapper. If anybody can find any charges on my record that I kidnapped anybody, please let me see it. And also, if anybody would say that the person involved in that situation with me, I was with for the next 9 years. And also, 3 days later, that was all dropped. And the newspaper said it was dropped because I was with that person. And it wasn't a kidnapping. And see, these are in the articles, but you have certain shows that used to like to say that Texas Kidnapper. So, you know, does that sound like a good movie, The Texas Kidnapper, James?
Well, I mean, you have shown this over and over again that it wasn't true. You've proven that for the last year.
They don't read the whole article. They don't read the
Right.
bottom of the article where it
Right.
says they don't read that ever.
Yeah.
They read the top, the headlines.
Yeah.
You know,
I just think it gets a little old bringing up the same stuff over and
It's
over.
all they have. It's
Right.
all they have. You know, it's
Right.
like, you know, they could do. It's not going to affect my show. My show's growing.
Right.
Those shows attacking me are not growing. That's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
So they can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, what do you think about? Well, let me finish with Howie.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'm sorry. So Howie, you got some stuff coming out of you. I'm going to tell you one thing, Howie. You said one thing that is going to make me back off on this. You said that those charges put into the court papers and everything, into the court records, was done by someone that was looking for bail for his client. I checked into that. That's accurate. Do I believe that some of those things in there are true that you're saying is not true? Yes, I do, Howie. But I just because I believe it isn't going to mean I say it. I'm not like you, Howie. I'm not going to stand there on a show and say that you did something that I'm really not sure you did. So that's the difference between you and me, Howie. And I just want you to know that. James ain't talking on this because James doesn't know nothing about it.
Right.
But this has been a big thing. And I would say to Howie, instead of going on shows where they don't ask you tough questions about things, they don't read down each charge and present it to you, you should go on a show that could actually ask you about each one, where they can ask you questions about them, not where you get to read the story, Howie, and say it how you want to say it. You know, these guys they want to make sure my story gets out there that I got a warrant and I'm going to be arrested and they're going to get bounty hunters and they're going to get and I'm a Texas kidnapper. They have no problem saying that shit.
Yeah.
But they won't, Howie, ask you the tough question. So that's what you need to do, Howie, if you want to straighten this out. And, you know, you're angry right now. It's kind of funny, karma, ain't it, Howie? You sat up there and said false things about me. You literally, Howie, got up there and said for people to call Social Security to try to get my Social Security taken away. Howie, I'm 62. I'm on Social Security. They don't take that away. I earned that. You know, or my disability when I was on disability. They have the records of whether I was really disabled, Howie. And yet you guys are out there trying to really, what do you think about this personal character assassination that they're doing where they're willing to try to have a man's Social Security taken away, try to have a man be known as a kidnapper when he's never been charged with that, or a drug addict. I don't take drugs. Did I have one time? Hell yeah. Haven't popped a pill in 8 months.
Well, that's good, but isn't that a rat move, though? If someone's going to call in on someone, that's a rat move, in my opinion.
Well, there's an infestation of rats over here. Of course, it's a rat move. You know, it's
I
would never think about doing that to my enemy. Never.
Yeah, and I guess you were accused of being doing a rat move by putting the video about Gene, but that
about reading about things that actually happened.
Right.
And then Gene Barillo came out and said, no, Lee never called my probation officer. And now he's saying, yes, I am, because he's mad at me.
Right.
And Gene, you know the truth about that.
Yeah, and I just don't understand that.
When I was getting along with Gene, I wrote a letter. And this is when I was feuding with the Gottis, with Angel Gotti. And Angel Gotti knows about it. Angel Gotti has a copy of the letter. But I wrote a letter trying to keep Gene out of jail. And Gene, you said that. You admitted that I did that for you. But then you got all weird, though. And you started making bad decisions, and it ended any type of bond that you and I have. I do not want to see this man go to jail unless he deserves it, or unless he can hurt somebody. And we're at the point now where he may hurt somebody.
All right.
Okay, people. Well, I just wanted to say that. And James, so what are we going to be doing on the Wrestling Channel next?
Yeah, so a couple of things. For one, one's with the with Piper, with Roddy Piper. We'll be doing a video on Roddy Piper, and also we'll be doing one about Vince McMahon and the pending sale of WWE.
And he's going to get Arabs to pay him twice as much money as what he's worth.
Right.
Because they don't have billionaires over there in the Emirates. They got trillionaires. They're so rich, people can't count their money. That's how rich those guys are.
Well, now, what's even more fascinating to me is the dynamic within the McMahon family, because there's a definite divide between Vince and then Triple H and his daughter, Stephanie. And Vince has been getting rid of some of the old timers that Triple H wanted to keep on.
Oh, he's been sticking it to Triple H. I think that he's showing I think that these people tried to power him out of his company, and they underestimated them. And this is what people have done with Vince McMahon from the beginning of time, underestimated them. This is a gangster show. If you want to talk about gangsters, Vince McMahon's a fucking gangster.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, he's not someone to mess with. And you've experienced it firsthand, with your brother and everything.
And that's why we're talking about Vince McMahon right now, because his family tried to screw him over, and he said, wait a minute. So they were under the assumption that Vince McMahon could not be bought out. And it turned out that Vince McMahon had enough of the shares in the company.
Yeah.
To be the only deciding factor on whether he wants to sell his company.
Yeah, he has over 51% of the shares, so it's his.
And somehow people overlooked this.
Yeah,
when they screwed him.
Amazing.
I think that Vince McMahon didn't realize the power he had.
Right.
Probably discovered it through his lawyers.
Yeah.
Gave his daughter a call, and Stephanie jumped up and down and held her nose and turned red.
Mm-hmm.
And then now Vince is going in and sticking it to Triple H. And I'll bet you anything you're going to see Triple H back in the ring.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's what I think you're going to see, because Triple H makes good money.
Yeah, he does.
You're gonna,
But he's also got heart problems too. So
well, that's what happens when you do all that juice. There's no
Mhm.
doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize he had heart problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting. See, that's why I got James as a partner here, because James comes up with some good stuff. So, James, what do you think about us doing a Sunday show like this where we do the week?
Yeah.
We're going to keep it to the informants, the
Mhm.
gangsters, and we're not going to directly name other
Right.
channels and attack them like these other channels do.
Yeah.
We'll say on this channel, because we're not here to blast
Right.
these people. And believe me, I would love to, but I'm not gonna.
No, I mean, I look forward to it. I know that the viewers want to know what's going on. There's actually some interesting stuff going on, and so I found it a fascinating week, at least.
And I would say, Howie Santos, if you're listening, once again, let somebody discuss your situation with you, not you just read your own thing, Howie. And for now, I'm going to sit back on it. Listen, only you know how true those things are. And if they are true, you got to live with them. But I want to see some concrete evidence on them. Do I believe some of them? Yes. But that doesn't mean a damn thing. So, Howie, that's the difference between you and I. With that said, James, did you enjoy this show today?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So we come on, do a 45-minute discussion like this.
Sure.
Try to give people good stuff. I learned a lot myself today. I didn't realize how respected Joe Watts was by so many in that family.
Right.
And for him not to be Italian and to get that power that he had,
Mm-hmm.
and the way Joe Watts was feared and respected.
Mm-hmm.
How odd did you find that this man was feared and respected the way he was?
Well, in one way I was surprised, but then the other way, when you look at even Lucky Luciano, he had Meyer Lansky that was, which was as powerful as any of the other gangsters. So, just again, who is close to the boss? And, he was well respected.
Or you could talk about the Goodfellas, the actor there that Robert De Niro played.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a proximity. There's certain things that you can bring, and so if you're a big earner, that can go a long ways. Same
That was
thing.
Jimmy. That was Jimmy Burke, I believe.
Yeah, Jimmy Burke, and then like, one of the things with Watts was he was a liaison to the Westies, and so the Westies did a lot of the dirty work for the Gambinos, murders and so forth.
Well, I'll tell you what, if they could stay sober, they would have been much more powerful.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, my man, I'm gonna let you go, but thanks a lot. People,
thank
please
you.
Like this video if you like it, and leave a remark underneath to let us know what you think. And if you like the idea of us doing a Sunday show like this, where we put everything down for the week and discuss it and give our opinions, and not be an attack show. Okay, my man.
All right.
I'll end this and we'll talk.
Yep. Thank you.